I'm sure you've all heard the phrase Namu Amida Butsu. You may hear it at funerals, in sutras, or even on television and in movies. While this phrase is very familiar in Japan, surprisingly, few people can properly explain what it means and its history. Today I would like to explain in as simple and understandable a way as possible the meaning of the phrase Namu Amida Butsu and how it originated and spread. Behind this phrase lies the prayers and wishes of people that have continued for over 2,000 years. 1. The meaning of Namu Amida Butsu. Let's start by explaining the basic meaning of this phrase. Namu Amida Butsu is originally derived from the ancient Indian Sanskrit phrase Namu Amida Buddha. This phrase was brought to China, where it was transcribed phonetically in Chinese characters to become Namu Amida Butsu, and then brought to Japan, where it came to be read as Namu Amida Butsu. First of all, the Namu part means I take refuge, I entrust myself to you, or I respect and worship you. In Buddhism, there is the idea of not living by one's own efforts alone, but entrusting oneself to the workings of the Buddha and truth. Namu is a word that expresses this state of mind. And Amida Buddha is a Buddha possessing infinite light and infinite life. In Sanskrit, Amitabha translates to infinite light, and Amitayus translates to infinite life. In other words, Amida Buddha is a Buddha, possessing limitless light and lifespan, a being who symbolizes compassion and wisdom that are not limited by time or space. Therefore, Namu Amida Butsu means, I take refuge in Amida Buddha, and I entrust everything to Amida Buddha. These 6 characters contain deep feelings of trust and gratitude. 2. Amida Buddha's vows, the 48 vows and the 18th vow. Let's take a closer look at what kind of Buddha Amida Buddha is. The sutras teach that Amida Buddha was originally a bodhisattva called Hozo Bosatsu. Before attaining Buddhahood, Hozo Bosatsu made a great vow to save people from suffering and delusion. These are known as the 48 vows. The most important of these is the 18th vow, also known as the vow to rebirth in the Pure Land through Nembutsu. This vow reads as follows. If, when I attain Buddhahood, I cannot enable those who chant the Nembutsu with all their heart to be reborn in the Pure Land, then I will not attain Buddhahood. In other words, he vowed, I will definitely save anyone who chants Namu Amida Butsu, no matter who they are. This vow is the very core of Amida Buddha's compassion. Everyone is caught up in anger, sadness, desire, and confusion, and sometimes hurts others and regrets things. But Amida Buddha accepts all of us and says, you can be saved just as you are. Therefore, the act of chanting the Nembutsu can be seen as an expression of gratitude for having already been saved rather than a seeking salvation. Living in peace surrounded by Amida Buddha's compassion. This is the spirit at the heart of Nembutsu. 3. From India to China and then to Japan. Faith in Amida Buddha was nurtured within Mahayana Buddhism, which originated in India. Around the time of Christ, sutras such as the Amida Sutra, and Amida Sutra were compiled, and Pure Land Buddhism, which preaches the Pure Land of Amida Buddha, was formed. This teaching eventually spread to China and flourished there. In China, renowned monks such as Don Luan, Dao Zhuo, and Zendo emerged, spreading the teaching that everyone can be saved by chanting the Nembutsu. Zendo in particular had a deep belief in the compassion of Amida Buddha, preaching that simply chanting Namu Amida Butsu can already lead to rebirth in the Pure Land. Zendo's teachings would later have a major impact on Japan. 4. Spread in Japan, Honen and Shinran. Pure Land Buddhism was introduced to Japan during the Heian period. At first it was only worshipped by aristocrats and monks, but eventually it became widely accepted as a source of spiritual support for the people. From the end of the Heian period through the Kamakura period, Japan was plagued by war and famine, and many people felt that this was the latter days of the law, an era in which the teachings of Buddhism would fall into disuse. Amidst this anxiety, Honen appeared on the scene. Honen preached that anyone could be saved by simply chanting Namu Amida Butsu with all their heart, without the difficult training and study that had been required up until then. This idea is called exclusive Nembutsu. Honen's teachings spread from aristocrats to commoners and gave great hope to those seeking salvation. Honen's disciple Shinran further deepened these teachings. Shinran preached that we do not chant Nembutsu by our own power, but are enabled to do so by the power of Amida Buddha. In other words, the idea is that the moment you utter Namu Amida Butsu, you are already within the reach of Amida Buddha's salvation. Shinran's teachings eventually spread to many people as the Jodo Shinshu sect. 5. The spirit of Nembutsu, the meaning of crying. So what does it mean to chant the Nembutsu? It's not just mechanically repeating Namu Amida Butsu. Nenbutsu is an act of gratitude for Amida, Buddha's mercy, and feeling that we are alive in his light. There are many things in our lives that don't go as we want them to. Separation from loved ones, illness, anxiety, loneliness. At times like these, when we utter Namu Amida Butsu, the words can quietly embrace our hearts. This is because Amida Buddha knows all of our suffering and is telling us, I accept you just as you are. Nenbutsu is a prayer, an expression of gratitude, and at the same time, a source of peace. These words are not meant to be heard by others, but to calm one's own mind. 6. Namu Amida Butsu for modern life. Modern society is overflowing with information, moving at a fast pace, and we're constantly being chased by something. When you feel mentally exhausted from social media or work, stress, anxiety about the future, or troubles with relationships, quietly chanting Namu Amida Butsu can miraculously calm your mind. This comes from the sense of security that comes from entrusting yourself to the great being that is Amida Buddha. When we feel that I don't have to do it all on my own, and I'm accepted no matter who I am, I believe we can truly regain peace of mind. The words Namu Amida Butsu also convey compassion for others. When remembering a deceased person or worrying about an ill person, chanting Namu Amida Butsu can express our wishes for that person's happiness and peace. In other words, these words go beyond mere religion and remind us of the connections between people and between lives. 7. Summary, an eternal prayer in 6 characters. As we have discussed so far, Namu Amida Butsu means I take refuge in Amida, Buddha, or I entrust myself to you. Amida Buddha is a Buddha with infinite light and life, who saves all people equally. His teachings were passed down from India to China and Japan, and spread by Honen and Shinran as the belief that everyone can be saved. These 6 characters contain more than 2,000 years of history, and the prayers of countless people. When we chant Namu Amida Butsu, we are connected to people of the past, people living in the present and lives to come. Even as times change, the anxiety and suffering people experience will not disappear. However, the words Namu Amida Butsu gently speak to us, telling us that you're okay just the way you are. They are words of hope and gratitude, and at the same time, words of reassurance. Please try chanting these 6 characters quietly in your mind as you go about your daily life. I'm sure there will be moments when you feel the warm light of Amida Buddha in these words.